it would be really difficult to be able to free run and just like be able to make an oscillator like this just slowly drift along. It just doesn't do that when it's pure analog. It's really difficult to make something drift.
It's difficult to engineer it, and it's difficult to do it, to operate it, to do so.
Yeah, I mean, with a pure analog oscillator, you would have your finger on the frequency knob just constantly twiddling it, trying to hold it steady.
I see. Okay.
Whereas because this has a digital core, you can set it to drift at a given speed, go out to dinner, come back, it's still drifting at that exact same speed.
Got it.
Now there's a couple of voltage controlled inputs on this. So we have a phase control input. Now the phase control doesn't affect the frequency, so it doesn't change the size of the bars in the oscillation, it only changes their position. If we control it manually, you can see it just moving the bars side to side. So if we feed an oscillator in to control that,
So this is another oscillator?
yeah, this is an older version of the same kind of oscillator.
And you're going from the sine wave on one into the, like...
It's actually, yeah, this one's mislabeled. This is, the sine and triangle were reversed in the labeling on this. So this is a sine wave out.
Oh, okay.
So I'm feeding the sine wave of this oscillator into the phase control on this one. And this is an attenuator for it. So when I voltage control the phase of this one, it uses that other oscillator to shift this one back and forth. And it's doing it with a sine wave, so it's doing a smooth back and forth. If I did it with a triangle wave, it would have sharp corners. And then it's all up to the frequency of this other oscillator. So if I have it going at a very slow speed, it's, you know, shifting it back and forth very slowly. If I do it at something that's something that's like a subharmonic of the vertical rate, so now it's at 30 hertz instead of 60 hertz, so it's in a different position field to field. It creates that kind of flicker, where in one field it goes one way, in the next field it goes the other way. When it's the same in both fields, then you get it more stable like that. And if it's then multiple times the vertical, then you get repetitions, multiple times happening, you know, top to bottom. So, and we have a scale control over how strong the effect is. We have an attenuator also for how strong it is.
Okay.
So the attenuator gives you a certain amount of control, and then the scale gives you 1 times, 2 times, or 4 times.
I see.
To just boost that range.
You can't go negative, though.
You could.
Well, it's just up to the voltage that you're feeding it. It is actually going positive and negative.
Oh, okay.
You can go negative as well by inverting the control signal.
Yeah, the control signal is a positive and a negative signal. So
But you can invert it from that.
What happened here when
there's a range that's valid for the control. When you're biasing with the manual control, you're taking that control signal and you're pushing it against the top or the bottom limit. And it's
so
clipping
it hits the limit. Oh, okay, all right, that makes sense.
It's turning the sine wave into a clipped sine wave. So it's
so
cutting
it's a sine
it,
wave and then it goes flat. And
then it's going flat on either the top or the bottom.
Okay.
So that'll happen when you hit the one side or the other side. And then in between, you've got the right range. Also happens as the scale gets big enough.
Sounds like a fire check.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out if it's a celebration or a fire.
At this time of night, it's a fire.
10:22, yeah, probably. But no, see, there's horns too. There was some sort of sporting thing the other day where these sports team was returning from out of town and they did a thing like that. So 'cause you
There are a
see-
number of cars honking as well, yeah.
So I think it's a sports thing.
Huh.
And also there was some sort of game going on.
Square wave can be confusing when you do that for modulation, because you're taking this repositioning and you're suddenly shifting one way, suddenly shifting the other way. So when you hit the attenuator,
You got that thing
you
where it
can
looks like
see
they're
it
slanted.
as you go a little bit, but you go too far and it ends up matching back up.